lately. And as you pointed out, here in the States, we have a scenario where the right to choose was leaked for women, and you touch upon the Supreme Court and the role they play. Can you share with everyone a little bit about what you know, what can you explain or unpack the role the Supreme Court should be playing or could play if it were to evolve?
When, of course, that nomination happened about 11 months prior to an election, whereas the nomination of Amy Coney Barrett happened just a fewer prior to the next election. And then, of course, we can think back also to the contentiousness around the Robert Bork confirmation hearing. And so, this history is significant. And I think it's something that I'm really incredibly concerned about. And for this decision, I'm concerned about two elements. So number one, the decision itself, I think, really weighs in to the debate in a way that's going to inflame tension on either side. And it's going to, I think the decision itself is going to damage, to the extent, the legitimacy of the court. And the leak is not something that's a minor issue, actually. I mean, this is something that has allowed justices to be incredibly open with one another, honest with one another, to change their opinions over time. Those are all incredibly important things for the court to be able to do. And if each justice can't trust that their private thoughts are going to remain private, then our judiciary's ability to have those discussions is going to be greatly limited. And seeing as this is one of the only this is the only branch that is in any way insulated from kind of the raging debates of the time, I'm very concerned about what impact this week can have. And then I'll make one note here, which is, and this is very much an idea, and perhaps we can have a discussion about this. A number of folks have proposed this idea of 18-year term limit for Supreme Court justices as a way to try to limit the political circuits around each nomination in order to try to get rid of some of the randomness of how many justices each president can nominate, and in order to maintain kind of a sense of connection to the public.
So we're going to pick this up when we come back from break. Don't change that dial. You're listening to What Happened Here on WVOX, a Whitney Global Media Station. So as you see, y'all, it's a lively discussion. That's all I can tell you. A lively talk. What happened here with abortion and what's going on with the Supreme Court? We're going to focus on the Supreme Court when we come back from break. And I can assure you, change is definitely on the horizon. I don't think we're gonna have to watch this very closely because it's too big of an issue to allow to there not be any response. And finally, I was listening to President Biden on the way in, and it's clear that he is now talking about some of these issues, and how important it is for us to have a response to what's going on right now. And I can only tell you that we have a lot to unpack and a lot to discuss. So just stay tuned. And I see some questions coming in. Discuss the ramifications of the actual leak. Yeah, we're going to talk about that because that's what Uriel and was raising before we went to break is, the impact that this is now going to have because this is a significant surprise and a real breach of trust within the judiciary, and I think that it's something that we're all going to have to we're going to unpack. So just stay tuned for it.
Directors represent a team of compassionate, dignified professionals that work one-on-one with you to plan the final tribute to your loved one. The exceptional service we provide comes at a lower cost because we are independently owned. Unlike other area Jewish funeral homes, Zion stands alone and is dedicated solely to those of the Jewish faith.
Come over and grab another headset. Hey, what's up, Jamar? We're going. All right, here we go. Oh my goodness. What happened here? What happened here? What happened here with abortion choice? Big surprise is all I could say. Was not expecting that decision to drop. And Instagram, all right, there we go. There we go. I don't understand Instagram sometimes. So if you got any questions, feel free to drop them right here, put them online, or call in. The call-in number is 914-636-0110. You can call in, tap in to talk with Uriel Epshtein of the Renewed Democracy Initiative, where we're going over the situation with Roe v. Wade in the Supreme Court, and we're gonna keep unpacking the issue. So stay tuned. I'll get this back. We're about to be back from break, y'all. So, anybody surprised that this happened from the Supreme Court? Yes, no, maybe so. Yeah, I think so. I know I'm certainly surprised. I'm not expecting that, at least this soon, but I guess, what can you expect when you have a court that's been packed by the Republican Party? So, I mean, it's their agenda, their political position. So, we're going to see what happens. I'm going to talk it through and what happened here. All right, here we go.
With Rick Thomas.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. You're listening to WVOX at Whitney Global Media Station. My name is Rich Thomas, the former mayor of Mount Vernon, and we are here every Wednesday at noon asking the question of what happened here? What happened here today with abortion? A big bombshell leak at the Supreme Court where a decision was leaked. It was a confirmed leak of a decision, of a draft decision, and the ramifications of that leak, what it means for our country, what does it mean for our institution, what types of changes should we be seeking, are all on the table to discuss. And that's even before we even talk about abortion. But on the line is our guest, Uriel Epshtein. He's the executive director of Renewed Democracy Initiative and a guest lecturer at Johns Hopkins University. We're talking about the situation at hand. If you want to call with questions, you can bring them at 914-636-0110. Again, that's 914-636-0110. But before we went to break, Uriel was talking about a concept of, maybe it's time to approach the Supreme Court differently. Can you share with everyone a little bit about, some of the ideas that have been floated to kind of bring a different counterbalance to the Supreme Court?
Yeah. This is, Well, this goes really well with my philosophy in general of having strong opinions loosely held, right? And in that, you have to be open to new information, new approaches. So this was something I was actually very skeptical of originally. But I've been hearing a number of folks talk about the possibility of instituting 18-year term limits for Supreme Court justices. And I have to say, the more I think about this possibility, the more interesting it is. Right? I mean, right now, every nomination for the Supreme Court is a political circus because it feels like life or death, right? I mean, the average tenure for a Supreme Court justice is now over 28 years. It's only going to get longer, right? As we appoint younger justices and the average lifespan increases. In fact, when you think about it, right, lifetime appointments began when the average lifespan was 44 years. So when you appoint someone, likely they're not going to remain in office for all that long. And now, of course, it's far, far, far longer. And this makes for a number of really big problems. So the most important problem, I think, is that each nomination is utterly insane, right? Each side is engaging in scorched earth politics, and it becomes hugely dangerous, I think, for our sense of unity and for the independence of the court. So I think by having those term limits, it sort of takes away the pressure of each of those nominations again. So it makes the court somewhat more, again, we want to keep the court insulated to some extent from the public opinion, but we also don't want the court to be completely, out of left field, right? We want there to be some connection between the court and the nation, and having justices rotate at 18-year, after 18-year terms, strikes me as a way to help accomplish that without totally getting rid of that idea of the court sort of standing independent from public opinion. Well, and there have been a number of questions around the constitutionality. It strikes me at this point that this actually would be perfectly constitutional. It would not require an amendment. And so I hope that it's something that we think about and talk about a lot more.
And that's where, I come back to now. Congress is controlled by Democrats. The Senate is controlled by Democrats, and the White House is, controlled by the Democrats. So the question is, what will Democrats do? This is one of the things that, I as a Democrat often get frustrated with is the constant conversation, but no real transition to changing the situation with action. And that's where I'm trying to figure out, are Democrats going to act? Are they going to actually do something? Or are they just going to talk and talk themselves into an even bigger defeat, which is being projected in the midterms? Because when I look at the situation and I wonder, Democrats won on promises. It's tough to see what promises has been fulfilled here.
Well, this is what I think is so interesting about this proposal. I don't think this has to be a partisan, right? This idea of having more predictability Supreme Court nominations, the idea of having less rancor, less hatred, less anger each time there's a nomination, that's something that should appeal to all of us, right? Regardless of whether we're Republicans or Democrats. So I actually see this proposal as a great opportunity to offer something that, would really appeal to.
Well, let's go back in time, because I remember President Biden actually announced that he was appointing some kind of a commission to study reforms to the Supreme Court. This was like back when he first got elected and took office, but I've never heard anything from that commission since. I mean, will this commission finally be put to work and say, this is what we want to get done, and we can get it done in the next 30 days, the next 60 days? I mean, something, because I just feel like, again, this is where Democrats get disillusioned, or at least voters get disillusioned, because, they don't see action by those that they put in office to act.
I hope that the commission takes this very seriously. I have to be honest that I think this proposal, this idea of term limits, is an infinitely better one than the idea of packing the court, which I think it would be open season, right? Because the next time Republicans are in control of,
they're just going to they're going to unpack it. Yeah. There's going to be a 90. So I get it. I'm just curious as to, what will it take to get Congress to act? And right now, Congress has a majority of Democrats. Senate has a majority of Democrats. And the question is, will they take action? And regardless if it's constitutional, right? You're saying this move could be put into effect. The question is, will they move? And I'm seriously wondering, when will Democrats act? And this sounds like a consistent idea, an idea that's similar to other elections of judges, where many judges have multi-year terms, 14-year terms, and having an 18-year term and possibly a reconfirmation, or is it one term only? And that's it. I think that's an interesting, concept that should be explored, because at the very least, you have some continuity. You have a set amount of time, and you can make room for new ideas and new approaches. So I'm guessing now the real question now is, what's up with the leak? What does that mean for the institution? I mean, now they can't talk in private. What's that about?
Um, I mean, I gotta say, I've certainly in the Twitter world, I've seen a lot of folks almost making fun of people who care about the leak as though it's not an important thing, but it is a really important thing, and it's real obvious to me which side the leak came from, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you could imagine the leak coming from the liberal side, obviously, because they might want to put pressure on the court, to the extent possible through public opinion, but it could also come from the conservative side, who might have wanted to freeze the conservative justices to their earlier position, because remember, this is still a draft opinion, right? That means that it can change, and frequently draft opinions actually do change, both in the substance of the opinion as well as in the justices who vote for and against. They're able to negotiate. They're able to sort of be convinced ultimately by one of the other justices, and so I could actually see it kind of going either way, where somebody conservative is like, all right, cool, we've got these 5 justices who are likely going to vote for this. I want to make sure that none of them dissent, and that they don't go to the Roberts approach, which Roberts preferred a more moderate approach, where they would have held up the 15-week ban, but they would not have actually overturned Roe v. Wade. So in terms of what this bodes for the future of the court, I think one question is, do they find out who the leaker is? I think that'll be one key question. And I think another, the extent to which there remains a sense of civility, a sense of camaraderie among the justices and among the clerks. I don't think we know that yet. I think we'll find out over the course of the next few weeks. But I really am concerned about this, and not just because I think civility is some overwhelming concern that we need to be thinking about, but because if we do not have a Supreme Court that can talk to one another openly, we are going to find ourselves in a much more dangerous place with a judiciary and a court that is going to be much less legitimate and much less effective.
And that's something that we're going to pick up when we come back from break. Don't change that dial. Listen to what happened here. Hey, Gerald, can you ask Uriel if he can stay on, or does he have a hard leave now or at 12:55? All right, great. Hey, everybody, how you doing? We talking about abortion. We talking about the right to choose. We're talking about the Supreme Court, and we're talking about what it means to have choice and to have no choice. So, stick with us, put your questions in, call in, tap in. We definitely want to know where you stand and what you think. But I can tell you right now, it's a huge surprise to have a leak at the Supreme Court, especially of this magnitude. So it goes to show you how important this issue is. And we're going to pick it up when we get back from break with our guest, Uriel Epshtein from the Renewed Democracy Initiative, who is talking us through some of the dynamics and some of the possible solutions for this. And this is a major situation, because now you have a whole universe of problems, and the problems range because you got women's health care, reproductive rights. You got so many politically charged positions lining up against ideologies of faith. So I can only tell you that um, we got to put structure around this, and we gotta really figure out where do we go from here, because this draft decision is so big, major, as Sarah Lowe said. So if you got questions, you got trust in government. I'm wondering, did Putin do this? Did he go in there and leak this thing? Because that's something that you know um, he's famous for in terms of creating strife and conflict or finding politically charged issues that make people fight themselves before they really focus on fighting their real enemy. And this is something that I'm wondering if it came from one of our foreign enemies that went in there and leaked it just to kind of scramble us. And Putin, yeah, Putin needs a hug. Putin needs some babies. He can hug some babies. But one of the things that I do want to point out is that there's a big conundrum in law, because for medical malpractice, I'm told that doctors cannot be sued for medical malpractice relating to, giving birth or any type of issue or complication that a person has that has a fetus in their womb, because it raises the question of when is a life a life. And doctors cannot be sued for anything really, if unless the baby is alive and born. And it's interesting that now this decision takes a totally opposite position, saying that there's life at conception. So that now opens up the question of, will doctors be held to the same standard, of penalties or charges if a if this law stands across the land? And it changes so many different things, so many different levels. So I just tell you that there are lots of issues to unpack one at a time. But right now we're focused on the Supreme Court and the leak. And look forward to talking with you and our guests when we come back. So we're coming back from break. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. You're listening to 1460, a WVOX Whitney Global Media Station. My name is Rich Thomas, former mayor of Mount Vernon. The name of our show is What Happened Here, and we're asking the question every Wednesday from noon to 1, what happened here? Today's topic is abortion. What happened with abortion? The Supreme Court. You can call in with your questions at 914-636-0110, but our guest, expert in democracy, expert in change, a change agent, a culture crafter, someone that's at the front lines of freedom, Uriel Epshtein, Executive Director at Renewed Democracy Initiative. He has been talking with us about some of the initiatives and programs that he is pushing to see the mission of democracy renewed. And we were originally going to talk about Ukraine and the important work that his organization is doing there. And I'd like to spend the last few minutes of the show talking about Ukraine. But we get a lot of questions online about trust in government, trust in the system, faith in democracy, about just with the leak, not even the draft decision, the leak, releasing a Supreme Court decision and what that does to trust in government. So I can tell you that there's a lot to unpack, a lot to discuss. And Uriel, before you went to break, we were talking about that, faith in government, faith in the institution. The leaker, is this person to be celebrated or are they to be vilified? Is it a person, or could it be a rogue nation that's trying to, cause this internal strife? What can be done, I guess, from the first standpoint, if you can recap for everybody some possible solutions to the Supreme Court, and then also to patch up the breach of trust inside the Supreme Court, so a leak like this does not happen again.
Yeah, okay, there's a lot there. And so if I miss anything, feel free to bump it. So first, I always love being introduced as a change agent, as a change agent. So thanks for that intro. So first and foremost, is the leak a good thing? So I think the answer is no. I do not believe that the leak is a good thing. I believe that already the court's legitimacy has been questioned on a number of different fronts, both for good reasons and bad. So earlier we talked about, well, how might we try to reinvigorate the court's legitimacy? How might we try to turn down the heat a little bit, turn down some of the hatred? And, one of the ideas that's been proposed are these 18-year term limits for Supreme Court justices, whereby every odd year, the sitting president would have an opportunity to nominate someone. So over the course of a 4-year term, every president would be able to nominate 2 justices. We kind of getting rid of a lot of the randomness in the process and trying to make each nomination hearing less insane. With respect to kind of I think this proposal would help address some of these issues. Going back to the leak itself, I think this is actually a really challenging one. So first, again, I don't think the leak is a good idea. While I personally happen to disagree with the decision of the court, I think leaking it is more than just a breach in decorum. It really erodes the trust that justices have with one another, and therefore makes it much, much more difficult for the court to proceed effectively moving forward. And again, I think listeners should remember that there are plenty of decisions where, which are much less divisive than 5-4, even in this overwhelmingly conservative court, right? So the question is, even in the, what will the impact be on those decisions? What will the impact be on those decisions where you have a justice who's open to crossing to the other side on, any particular question, which again, does happen not infrequently. Now, do I think this is a foreign nation? I don't. Despite all of the work we're doing on Ukraine and how concerned I am over Russian hacking and things like that, I think it's unlikely that.
Let's zoom in on Ukraine. Let's zoom in on Ukraine. Let's zoom in on the authoritarian attack on democratic institutions. Can you just paint the picture to our listeners and viewers online? What is Renewed Democracy doing in the Ukraine that maybe they can support?
So first and foremost, what RDI is doing, our mission is to defend democracy against tyranny. And nowhere is that fight clearer than in Ukraine. Ukraine is clearly in times of freedom, and it's our responsibility to help them with that fight, because if they don't succeed, then the front line just gets closer to home, right? Putin will go from Ukraine to Moldova. And from Moldova, who knows? I mean, he may well target a NATO country, in which case you're talking about Article 5 being called up, which would force other NATO countries to come to that defense, to the defense of the country being defense, which in turn would lead to an international conflagration. So what is RDI doing? We're doing a few things. First, we are collaborating with organizations in Ukraine in order to help that country maintain its sovereignty as a democratic state. That means providing food to the Ukrainian people, providing humanitarian aid, again, within Ukraine, so that people don't have to become refugees out of the country in the first place. It also means maintaining international unity among the free world, with the understanding that it has to come together to defend Ukraine. And in terms of what people can do, again, this work is incredibly time-consuming. It's incredibly expensive. If you're interested in supporting the work, please go to rdi.org, and you can see there additional information about what RDI does domestically, what we do internationally, and then there will be an opportunity to donate or join us. I mean, we're also always interested in people joining us. We send regular updates about events. Recently, I think a month and a half ago, we hosted the Ukrainian foreign minister alongside soldiers from the Ukrainian front line, so that we could get both a bird's eye view from the point of view of the minister of what's going on, but also a view from the trenches of what it means to actually be fighting against Russia on the front. And then another website, if folks are interested in looking at and tracking the sanctions that the free world has implemented against Russia, we've launched a sanctions tracker under the website fight4Ukraine.org. So again, that's fight4Ukraine.org. And you can see those sanctions there.
And can you talk a little bit about the front lines of freedom? That way folks don't miss out on all the other, great initiatives you're pushing.
Yeah, thanks so much for bringing it up. So the Front Lines of Freedom is a project that we believe can have a huge impact on American democracy, right? We think that it's not just our responsibility to defend freedom abroad. We also think that people who fight for freedom in their home countries have a big role to play in helping us maintain our democracy. And so what we've done is we've brought together over 100 dissidents now from over 35 countries who can convey this incredibly positive message about how American democracy inspired them, even while they were fighting for just some small semblance of the freedoms that we get to enjoy here. And this project takes a number of different forms, ranging from a college course that we're implementing in universities around the country, and currently being led by this brilliant dissident from Zimbabwe, Pastor Ivan Moarire, who almost single-handedly brought out millions of people into the streets of Zimbabwe to protest against their dictator, Mugabe, ultimately leading to his ouster. And of course, he was followed by a guy nicknamed the Crocodile, and you never want to have a dictator nicknamed the Crocodile. And sadly, Ivan was arrested, tortured, and now lives in exile here in the U.S. And we think that folks like him can really just offer such a unique perspective to Americans. And we really hope that all of you listening will kind of sign up to learn more about the project. We're doing much more than just this college course. Ultimately, there will be opportunities for the general public. There will be frequent events, both virtual and in person, in cities around the country. There really will be significant opportunities. And again, if you believe in this kind of work, and if you think that American democracy is under threat, and this kind of unique approach, something that, as far as I know, hasn't really been tried anywhere else, is worth pushing for. Really encourage you to go to rdi.org and sign up, and if you can.
And that's something that we definitely want to see everybody do. We want to see people on the front lines of freedom, because right now, freedom is definitely under attack. And that's probably what prompted the leak from the Supreme Court. And as we approach elections, especially the midterm elections for Congress, this is the issue that is going to ultimately decide who goes to Congress and not. And if there are 7 seats up in Congress that's going to flip the balance, maybe Democrats need to think about, standing on their values and making a decision to, look at this policy change, this law change to implement term limits on the Supreme Court, and to create this rotating ability for presidents to appoint 2 justices, their term, which might not be a bad idea to protect democracy and renew democracy. I want to thank our guest, Uriel Epshtein, for joining us today and bringing some much needed insight and ideas to what we can do to take action and fix on what happened here. Join us next week, and I look forward to having you back, Uriel.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. So that's our show. As you know, it was a very, very, very emotionally packed subject. I want to thank our guest Uriel for his time and ability to talk us through some of the ideas of what we can do to put more structure around the discussion and arrive at a place where we can get something done. So definitely share this show. Share your thoughts and opinions, and let me know what you think we should be doing to renew our democracy. So that's our show this week. Thank you.